All right, well, it's officially 2 o'clock. So we'll just kind of make a little small talk here while the stragglers show up. What a great turnout. I really appreciate everybody showing up today. It's awesome. And so I'm Dan Austin, founder and CEO of Austin Adventures. And I'm joined by my faithful sidekick here, Casey. She didn't know she was joining me, but Casey's going to join me and help us get through this. And if you don't like my answers to the questions, you can always ask Casey because she'll give you a different answer. No, not really. But again, thanks for joining us. What a great turnout. I think by now we've all done enough Zoom calls that I shouldn't need to tell you how it works. I just remind you to shut down anything that you don't need, any unneeded programs. We are going to share a short video today, and that takes up a lot of bandwidth. But really just sit back and enjoy it. I'm going to move through this deck really quickly and try and save lots of time for questions at the end. Ask away, and we'll stay on as long as we need to get to all of those questions. So with that said, again, welcome everybody, and let's get started. Today, our goal today is really just to introduce you or reintroduce you to Austin Adventures, what we do and why you should consider us when you get requests for adventure tours. Of course, we want to spend a little bit of time talking through our new agent stimulus plan. We want to leave you with some optimism. So with that said, I want to start with a great video from a good friend of mine, Bert Jacobs. I know we have at least one agent from Boston here, and anybody in Boston knows the Jacobs brothers, but Bert's a good friend of mine, and I wanted to kick this meeting off today with a little bit of optimism. Nobody better than Bert to share his passion.
Hello there. My name is Bert Jacobs. I'm one of the founders and the CEO of a company called Life is Good. And Life is Good, we are a positive lifestyle brand. Quite simply, we spread good vibes. And we have found in our 26 years of business that optimism is needed most at the most difficult times. So across those 26 years, we've been through 9/11 in 2001. We've been through the Great Recession, 2008, 2009. In our hometown, the Boston Marathon bombings in 2013. Now this with COVID, who would have guessed a global pandemic? And we're all struggling, we're all suffering with it. But I want to tell you that the number one ingredient to get you through this thing is rational optimism. Rational optimism means you recognize the obstacles. Okay, COVID-19 is dangerous. So keep being safe, keep being vigilant, wash your hands, stay 6 feet away from each other, et cetera, et cetera. That stuff is real. But be optimistic about where we're going. Be optimistic about your business surviving and eventually thriving, because it will. There are ways to get through this. And be solution-oriented. Be innovative. We've pivoted our business. We've changed our supply chain from being 12 to 18 months long to 3 days. And it's working for us. We're moving in the right direction. Look, Life is Good. We partnered with Austin Adventures. There's lots of companies we could partner out there. We partnered with Austin Adventures because they don't just go to beautiful places and hang out there. They're about the adventure being tied to open-mindedness, about being unified as a group, learning together, growing together, thinking about what it is to be a human being when you go to special places. That's what meant something to Life is Good. That's what means something to Life is Good. So I know you're together with Dan and the Austin Adventures group today. I just want to say to you guys that life isn't easy and life isn't perfect, but keep your chin up and be a rational optimist because life is good. Thank you.
Wow. I mean, I just really, that's just a great message from Bert. I had the pleasure of spending quite a bit of time with Bert over the years, and we spent a week down in Costa Rica, and I can't tell you how much fun he is, and that the whole Life is Good brand, that's just not a gimmick, that's who they are. So, okay, so you met Bert. Let's talk a little bit about who we are. So again, I'm Dan Austin, founder and CEO of Austin Adventures. Casey joining me today unexpectedly, I threw her in 3 minutes before this started, is our president. really manages our operations, kind of the day-to-day of making these trips go flawlessly. And it's been great to have her on board for, gosh, well over a decade now. My wife, Carol, is definitely involved in sales. She helps with a lot of sales with our agent community. So a lot of you know Carol, and she's always there to help. So we like to think we're not the biggest tour operator on the block, but we're definitely one of the best. And we really, consider ourselves a boutique tour operator, and that gives us a lot more flexibility than some of the big guys. I always encourage everybody to ask about the guides. No tour operator is anything without their guides. And we, like money, believe that our guides are, the best in the business. Key is to ask, are they employees or subcontractors? For us, these are all our employees. They can't carry on the company values if they're just kind of part-time. So these are our employees, and many of them have been with us 10, 15, 20 years. I think we've got, Casey, Tom's 25 years now, 26 years?
Yeah, we have some that have been around a long while. And even, throughout the pandemic, we had all veteran guides who stuck through it and guided all summer long. And I think really this summer made them better guides at the end. It was a challenging season, but a good one. So
yeah, we just couldn't do it without them. This is the number one thing that keeps us going. And to tell you the truth, they're just fun to be with. And I always joke, they keep me young. All right. I always like to touch real quickly on what is adventure travel. And I do that because it could mean so many different things. It's an overused term. It can mean anything from climbing Mount McKinley in Alaska or swimming in the Amazon or taking a walk in the dog park. So today we want to talk a little bit about what it means to us. And really, it's all about small groups. And on our scheduled departures, about 70% of what we do are scheduled trips. They're going to leave every Sunday, Yellowstone all summer long, wherever the destination is. But about 70% of what we do are those scheduled programs. We limit those to 12 guests on the adult trips and 18 on the family programs. Of course, if it's a custom trip, it can be 2 or 20 or 30. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. Fully supported. We maintain a strict 6-to-1 guest to guide ratio. We believe that's one of the best in the business. We just know that we can't execute what we do without that close personal contact with our guides. Accommodations, we always like to say, we do have a few camping trips, but it is not many, 1 or 2. We're always looking for the finest accommodations and most appropriate accommodations in any given area, whether it be a national park property or an old historic lodge, whatever the most appropriate property is that it kind of complements the itinerary. Service, that's what we're known for. Our customer service is second to none. We literally have that ingrained in our DNA. We're always looking for that red carpet treatment. We're always looking for those special wow moments. That guy in the shirt there, my son Andy, the guides are always looking for ways to kind of anchor that moment with special surprises. Food's a big part of what we do. It's why we all go on vacation. And again, our small size makes it, we can look for those cool local bistros, or maybe it's the guide picnics that have just become legendary over the years, or maybe it's a barbecue joint here in Montana. We're always looking to make sure that the guests enjoy the culinary aspects of any trip as well. I always like to say, if you're active enough during the day, then you get to have 2 desserts at night. Enrichment, again, that's another important part of what we do. If you're traveling in the Masai Mara in Kenya, that it's, you're embracing the locals, but it's same here domestically. We're going to introduce you to a 4th generation Montana rancher, or we're going to introduce you to a wolf environmentalist. All guests are all inquisitive. They want to learn. They want to know what's going on locally, whether it be property values or employment, what do people do for jobs? All of that's really an important part of what we do. So what do we do? That's another great question. We literally do a little bit of everything. Adventure vacations is where we cut our teeth. We do what we call multi-sport adventures. Yes, we have some dedicated hiking trips and some dedicated biking trips, But for the most part, we really like the multi-sport adventure because that means that you can bike, you can hike, you can raft, you can horseback ride, you can sea kayak in Alaska, you can raft the Yellowstone here in Montana. Whatever that local area is known for, we're going to try and make sure we introduce it to you in a great way. Whether you're an avid cyclist or a first timer, the guide's going to make sure they key in on that and you get the most out of that trip. This is really great for families, couples and stuff where, dad might be an avid cyclist where mom is an avid hiker. They both get what they're looking for. Family adventures, about 65 to 70% of what we do are family departures. And as y'all know, multi-sport families travel is huge. So Skip, Jen, and all the rest, we're seeing it. It's been the fastest growing segment of our business for decades now. I mean, every year, more and more of those multi-gen families. We love them. Gives us a chance to really shine, make sure we have something for the kids and make sure we have something for grandpa. It really is, there's an art to it. We make sure that when we design family programs, they're not just putting a family sticker on an adult trip and saying, okay, these are good for families. No, actually, we're building them with kids in mind. We're building them with adults in mind. Time for families to be families together. Time for the adults to be adults. Time for the kids to be kids. And literally, we make sure that everybody, 8 to 80, gets what they're looking for. Again, big part of our business, about 30% of what we do are customs and exclusives. And that is another one that's been growing. 2020 saw a huge spike in custom trips. And that means if your client can dream it, we can build it. And interestingly enough, we work with a ton of agents to really fine tune what that guest is looking for. And this year was challenging. We got those last minute calls. What can we do? I normally would be in Italy right now. What can we do domestically? And we're always up for the challenge. We had some 24, 48-hour notice trips that we actually pulled off. Casey's been known to work 24 hours a day and pull out some miracles. But we like the challenge. It is fun. And again, private jets. We did, I think a few years ago, we did 5 national parks in 7 days by private jet. Literally, if your guest can dream it, we can pull it off. And that fits really well with our new program we brought out in 2019 was custom homestays. And we did a ton of these this year. It actually was a bit of a savior for us. And what that means is strictly you come to us, you say, I've got a family of 12. They want to do, 7 days. They like this, they like that. They want to go to North Carolina or Montana. We work with our contacts, and we've got a lot of great ones, to find the perfect home for them. And, executive retreats, a cabin, whatever works best. And then we provide guides, drivers, chef. Casey did one this year in North Carolina for a family of 15. And we actually outfitted the trip with a sommelier for the whole trip. These people liked their wine, and we made sure that we had a sommelier on duty all the time for them, and an amazing chef. And then by day, the guides were taking them out hiking and biking and fishing and all kinds of crazy stuff. But it really works out well because it gives folks that comfort of, COVID has us all a little bit freaked out about going into hotels. So with a private homestay, you can do just that.
And I just got to throw in too that I put together a ton of these for the Jackson Hole area this summer and Big Sky, Montana. Those were super hot destinations. And I have a feeling that's going to continue into next year too. So,
yeah. Austin Concierge, we were asked to do this a couple years ago by Virtuoso when one of our competitors had a little trouble finishing the season. And really what that is those are self-drives. It can be anything, any aspect of it. We'll provide the route, we'll book the hotels, we'll provide day guides, literally a little bit of everything. And again, it's not really our favorite. It's not what we do. We like the fully guided, fully embraced trip. But, for those people that think they want that independence, we do see a lot of this. And it does work well. It works well in the national parks. And similar to that is RV trips. This was probably our biggest pivot this year when COVID struck, is we were asked to put together some RV trips. We use our contacts, we use our insider knowledge, our itineraries, Our day guides, we use, I actually own an RV, so it was pretty easy pivot for me. So, because my wife and Carol have had one for, I don't know, decades now. So literally we jumped in with both feet, started putting together some pretty amazing RV trips. It's clearly not for everybody, really not a budget trip. It can get carried away with depending on what they want as far as their activities and whatnot. But again, starts with that first call. We just do what we call a discovery call and find out what exactly you're looking for. We've talked about adding day trips for, I don't know, Casey, what, 20 years? And
yeah.
This year we found ourselves with an abundance of guides. We had more guides than we had trips. And so in order to keep the guides busy, we actually started running day trips in our backyard here in Montana and the Grand Teton area. And so we've actually added that to our lineup. Again, it's not really our favorite, but those are the same guides that would host our week-long programs, provides a little extra work for them when they need it. And when you've got that client that just happens to be in town for a couple of days and is looking for a couple-day experience in the parks are jam-packed. And we expect that. They set records this year. Even under COVID, they set records. And there is nothing better than a guide to get you away into the backcountry, away from the parking lots, away from all those crowds. We can't state that enough. That's really the key to what we do on our scheduled programs is we navigate these national parks and these surrounding areas and make sure the guest gets away from those crowds to enjoy the parks. All right, who are our travelers? Boy, this is a tough one. Easier to say who's not, but there are some common themes. Again, multi-gen, families, couples, singles, corporate groups. Folks that do this stuff all the time, first timers, grandparents. The common thread is they're active, they're engaged. Typically they're educated and they're looking for more education. They like to learn, and they're just great traveling companions. I always use the analogy that 95% of our guests I would travel with personally on my own, not related to the company. And that's a big statement. If you knew me, you'd really know that's a big statement. I love our guests. They come prepared to have a good time. They're intrepid travelers. Even in COVID this year, we ran about, 35% of what we normally would do under extremely challenging circumstances. Our guests were the best. They literally came with that spirit of adventure. They were just thrilled to be out. They were thrilled to get together out in the backcountry, on the trails, on the bike trails, on the hiking trails, rafting the Yellowstone, whatever it was. They were just excited to get out. We see that year after year after year.
And it's going to be even more so next year. People are just going to be thrilled to be out and about. So as all of our travel agent partners know, now is the time to sell for next year, right? People are definitely looking to get out of their houses at this point and have something to look forward to.
100% agree. So where do we travel? Well, it's easier to say where we don't. Today, we're going to focus a little bit more on North America, but we do have trips on all 7 continents. And we got a little bit of a surprise for you. We're starting to trickle out. We'll share in a few minutes. But really what we're known for is we are known for the national parks of the West. It's been in our DNA for 35 years. We are the experts. We've gotten every award known to man. But today we want to just quickly cover our top 10 domestic adventures. And it's funny, these have been our top 10 adventures for, 30 years. Year after year after year, these same trips make the top 10. Number 1 has always been Yellowstone National Park. 30 plus years, it's been our number 1 seller. No surprise, it is our backyard. It's where Casey and I play when we're not working. We go there constantly. It is a perfect trip for new adventure seekers. We call it our gateway trip. Often people start with Yellowstone, and then maybe they'll go to Alaska or Canadian Rockies, and then Costa Rica, and then Peru. So literally, this is a great introduction trip to adventure travel, and it's a great custom trip. It's when somebody calls me up and says, "Never done this before. I've got a family. I've got this. I got that." Start with Yellowstone. You really can't go wrong. It's informational. It's sensory overload. Literally between the wildlife, the geothermal features, the history, it's just got so much going on. It's a great destination. Alaska's got to be right up there as well. We moved to Montana 25 years ago from Alaska. This was the first trip I ever built 25 years ago. And we've been running it ever since. Phenomenal trip. There's so much to see and do in Alaska, but we've like to focus on the Seward Peninsula. There really is, it is the best of Alaska. That's my personal opinion. And I've seen every inch of Alaska, but it's a great land-based trip where we're sea kayaking, we're doing the Glacier cruise thing, we're hiking, we're biking, just a great program. This year we could not obviously run our Canadian Rockies program. We've actually got 3 or 4 or 5 programs up in the Canadian Rockies. Been doing it for 30 years, always been one of our top sellers. Starting to see a lot of interest in next year. Again, the Canadians did a really good job with COVID, and that required them closing their borders down. In fact, I had to go up and pick up some equipment for Casey this summer, and I was allowed in to cross the border for 3 hours. Get in, get out. But you know what? It's going to pay off. They're pretty much, they got COVID on the run, and this program will be back, and it'll be back strong. I think the strongest, yes, the Canadian Rockies are epic. The Canadian guides are amazing. We just love our Canadian guides. These guys have been with us for decades, and they really take their guiding serious. Montana, again, that's our backyard. This trip hits the best of Montana, again, in my humble opinion. We start out in Bozeman, Montana, go down to Big Sky, spend a couple of days in Gallatin Canyon. Then we're into Yellowstone for a good day and a half, and then back out through Paradise Valley. This is when somebody asks me, I got a really active family or an active couple. This trip, you're horseback riding, you're rafting, you're zip lining, you're hiking, you're biking, you're doing it all. I mean, it's just a great trip, great accommodations, classic Montana ranch, classic historic lodge, park properties, just a real special trip. I'm exhausted just talking about that trip. South Dakota Black Hills, another how do I say this, an unsung hero, often overlooked, but a great destination. Custer State Park rivals Yellowstone for its wildlife, got some great accommodations, so much more than Mount Rushmore. You've got, Crazy Horse, which, my opinion is it's way cool. Rivals Mount Rushmore from a kind of an artistic geography carving standpoint. Pretty darn cool. And then you get to visit the historic town of Deadwood. Great trip. A lot of fun. Great biking trip. Casey, wouldn't you say this is probably one of our top biking trips?
Yeah, you get to bike the entire Mickelson Trail on our adult trip, and that's 110-mile rails to trail, beautiful trail with no one on it. It is like probably one of my favorite bike rides in the entire world. It's in South Dakota of all places. Who would have thought, right?
Yosemite, this is another historic, iconic destination. I've got some good friends there right now sending me pictures, just making me salivate for how cool it is. I like to go in the spring when the waterfalls are just raging, but it is a absolutely iconic destination. And this is another one of those ones that, boy, going guided is the only way to go. This park is small and it gets a ton of people, but you know what? It's really easy to just get away from those crowds. They spend vast majority of them, kind of congregate towards the parking lots and those iconic stops, but you can see those iconic stops and so much more if you've got the right guide. Glacier, another Montana favorite, just north of us here. Been up in Glacier for 33 and a half years. I mean, it's just a great destination, our nation's first peace park. So much going on up here. Again, got a couple of iconic bike rides on this trip. Literally, the Going to the Sun road is on everybody's bucket list to ride. The Rocky Mountains, just really magnificent. And yes, there are still glaciers, and great chance to see them. Bryce and Zion down in Utah. We've got about 4, 5, 6 programs down in Utah. This one we've had the longest. 2 of the best national parks in all of Utah. And I always like to say this one is just, a photographer's dream. You've got those red hoodoos and spires and the blue skies and the green forest. It really is spectacular. And this is a great hiking trip. we hit two of the most iconic hikes in the world in the Narrows and Angels Landing. If you've got hikers, they're definitely looking to get those on their bucket list. Grand Canyon, I always like to say, is so much more than just the big ditch. We visit the South Rim, but we also visit Sedona and we visit Prescott. And there's just a lot more to this region than just the Grand Canyon. But of course, yes, there is that historic moment when you look over the Grand Canyon, do that Chevy Chase move and take it all in and then move on to the next activity. Our newest trip, we had a couple years now, is North Carolina, Blue Ridge Mountains. I often have to apologize what took me so long to figure out how cool the Blue Ridge Mountains are. I actually sent Casey there this summer, and she was on the phone to me constantly. Why haven't we been here sooner? Why haven't we been here sooner? Really neat destination, great accommodations, and just a really great program. We saw a lot of interest in North Carolina this year from the East Coasters because a lot of folks didn't want to get on airplanes, and this was a driving distance. You can drive from New York City to the area that we're in, Banner Elk area, in about 8 hours. Phew. Okay, real quick, as I mentioned, we're starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel, and in fact, many countries are doing better than we are. I've got friends right now currently in Kenya, Costa Rica, Galapagos, Peru, all just getting started, all just getting back in that grind. And it's really exciting to see because these countries and these towns and communities that we visit count on tourism dollars way more than we do. I mean, literally, it might be the only income these folks have. And it's been totally shut off for the last 8 months. So we're super supportive of these communities. If they can open up safely, and again, I'm impressed. Some of these really have some great safety protocol in place. If they can open up safely and we can get there safely and run the programs, we'll do it. Again, we've got guests headed to Costa Rica, the Galapagos, but these are our top sellers. And again, some of the top countries opening up. We have an office in Nijmegen, Holland. And so we really, we love Holland. And Germany, the Moselle Valley, Austria, Costa Rica, Kenya, Tanzania, Vietnam, Thailand, Chile, Argentina, and of course the Galapagos, all those programs. Real quick, I'll touch on a little bit. We hope that we're going to be able to stop talking about this soon, but you know what? It's a reality we're dealing with right now, and we're still going to deal with it. We're going to actually deal with it in 2021 as well. Yes, they've got a vaccine coming out. Yes, we're seeing progress. Unfortunately, it's going to get darker before the dawn, and we're going to see it. But we're implementing policies that we implemented policies this year that we're going to carry over to next year. We did things like asking every guest to go through a questionnaire of how they were interacting with the communities beforehand, during, and after their trip. We practiced strict sanitary protocols, social distancing protocols, PPE protocols. We literally made sure we communicated constantly what was expected. We ran hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of guests this year without one single incident. We're actually pretty proud of that. Back in March, we brought our guide teams in. Casey brought our guide teams in and said, okay, guys, you're the ones out in the field. What are we going to have to do to keep everybody safe? And they were awesome. They just rolled up their sleeves and said, this is what we do. And this is where we shine. And really kind of proud of the way they handled all of this. In the office, you know, we made a policy, and I always joke, our policy is there is no policy. And I say that tongue in cheek, but it's true. We didn't have a single chargeback all year. We worked with every guest, every agent to make sure that we handled them appropriately. If they wanted to reschedule for 2021, which most did, we allowed that. If they wanted to postpone for later in the year, we allowed that. If they wanted to out and out cancel, we made sure they could do that comfortably without losing their shirt. So really, we took it on a case-by-case basis. And again, back to where I started this conversation, I think that's the benefit of a boutique tour operator. We were able to literally, I'm so proud of our team. We didn't lay anybody off, and everybody was on the phones 24/7. We adopted a policy that I called the ABCs. And I encourage everybody to do that. Anticipate, be honest, and communicate. We reached out to every single guest numerous times on the phone, via email. We manned our phones 24/7. And we made sure that we were there, and we were all in this together. And again, that's exactly how we looked at it. We looked at it like we were all in it together. A lot of these policies are going to carry over into 2021, and we'll just keep revisiting them as time goes on. Casey's been working on some pretty neat safety protocol that we're embracing globally, and we'll be announcing that here in the coming weeks. But pretty excited about it because we're taking it serious. We're in this for the long haul, and we know that the challenges are not behind us.
And one thing I wanted to point out too that we're really proud of is that we did operate this past summer during, the pandemic, and we're able to figure things out on the run. And I feel like we're pretty far ahead of a lot of other companies that actually ended up maybe kind of sticking their heads in the ground and hiding from COVID and saying, we're not, maybe it was the right choice to not run trips. So we will never know, but we made it through, and we have developed a ton of great protocol over the summer that we're going to be implementing next year. And that should make you feel very confident in sending your guests our way. We'll definitely take care of them.
And again, we've covered all of this stuff, but really, we are a family-owned and operated company, and we encourage you to look at us as part of your extended family. And it's always worth a call. When you want to know, do we do this? Do we do that? What do you think about this? Call us. We'll talk through it with you. As I mentioned, ton of awards. We don't need to really get in this, but I keep coming back to this year. We were selected A-lister, Travel and Leisure's A-lister for the national parks. That's a pretty big one we're proud of. And I think the biggest one I've always been proud of is two-time winner of Travel and Leisure's World's Best, #1 in the world for Travel and Leisure readers. And again, I think that's a big one because we were up against the big guys, and that one's pretty exciting. Why sell adventure travel? You know why? I think it's the fastest growing segment of the travel industry. And even in COVID, what we're hearing and seeing is that adventure travelers are the first back to market. So again, I mentioned I've got friends traveling all over the world right now, watch them on Facebook and whatnot, but they're out there. They're starting to travel. Adventure travelers are intrepid travelers. They're going to get out. They're going to travel. Nothing is going to stop them. As I mentioned, we ran numerous trips this year, and that's exactly what we heard. Nothing's going to stop us. Yes, they were conscious and aware, but they were going to get out. And so and again, some of these cases, that's kind of the best thing you can do. Let's get out and get away from those crowds. It is a big part of the industry. Adventure travelers are repeat customers. We have guests, ready for this, that have been on, our record is 56 trips. We have one couple that's been on 56 trips. They are repeat customers. If they find a niche, they find a tour operator, they find a travel agent they like, they will come back year after year after year, 2-3 times a year. And it's a great repeat business, is a great book of business. Again, something for everybody, and typically generous commissions. We start our commissions at 12%, and that's, plus lots of other perks. Let's talk about one of those. Again, I have to apologize for this because I should have done this years ago. It never added up to me. It never added up. This last March, I was talking to an agent that we do a lot of business with, and we were booking a client for the third time. He originally was booked for March of 2020. Then he moved to June of 2020, and then he was going to September of 2020, and finally rebooked for 2021. And it dawned on me while I was talking with this agent that he had no commission coming in. And I immediately, on the spot, Casey will remember the day, I called my team together. I says, guys, this is wrong. And so we immediately implemented a 50% of your commission gets paid at the time of booking. And I always get asked, what if that guest cancels? Well, it doesn't happen very often. And if it does, we'll actually honor that because we don't want to go back and try and figure it all out. So if that guest does cancel, in the rare times, we'll go ahead and absorb that.
Well, and the hope too with that is that you as the travel agent will end up rebooking that guest with us at a later point down the road, right? So
correct. Key is keeping the customer happy. That's literally what and it's worked. It's really worked well. Little incentive we have, each agent who books 10 customers your own private exclusive trip, we call them exclusives, Book 10 guests and you and your traveling companion get to go free, plus you get the 12% commission. And if they're not scheduled departures, just give us a call. We'll see where we have availability, where we have a departure open, and then we can work on that. I'm finding more and more agents are working their own book of business. In other words, they've got their own database, their own email list, and so that's working out pretty good. Okay, I said I had some big news for you. We just recently closed on the acquisition of Wildland Adventures, another 35-year iconic adventure travel company. Kurt Couttet was the owner and been a good friend of mine. We serve on numerous boards together. We've run in the same circles. We've shared, best practices. I've always admired their company. They've always admired our company. When COVID hit, what kept us going was our domestic product, and some of the international tour operators without domestic product were in challenging times. You add that to the fact that Kurt's starting to look at retirement, and his team's kind of getting a little tired, and it was just a great opportunity for us to work out a deal where we basically acquired Wildland. With that, we get some great best practices we're already implementing. We get some great new itineraries. We've probably inherited 80 itineraries, and we're going to narrow that down to the 40 best. We got some great contacts. We already used a lot of the same partners in the Galapagos or in Costa Rica, Peru, but it was just an opportunity for us to get out there and get a better footprint. Wildland's been one of the top safari operators for, again, 35 years, and we operate safaris. We know them well. But it was really a neat opportunity for us to get some great contacts, to get some great new customers. I mean, that's obviously what we're all in it for, is we got at the database, and we've taken over a pretty good sized book of business. And it's been really neat to get to know his customers because they're the same as ours. So in the months and years to come, this is going to prove out to be a great addition to our lineup. Again, I've been impressed with Wildland, their safari strength for years. Zambia, they do a lot of really cool sustainable programs. They've got this one where they've created a water system and while the guests are on safari. Botswana, Okavango Delta, Namibia is one of my favorite countries. And again, they literally, I think they wrote the book on sustainable experiential travel. So we've really learned a lot from them and their team. So I think that's going to be a great addition. All right, Casey, do me a favor while I get to the Q&A. We promised you guys would do a little giveaway. So we've got a couple of these Life is Good backpacks, and we're going to stuff them full of swag. And so Casey's going to randomly pick 2 agents off our list. And before we go, stick around. Before we go, we'll let you know who that is. All right, guys, that's it. My favorite time, Q&A. We've got about 15, 20 minutes here if we need it. But Casey, you got some questions for me? What do they call this part of the game show? Stump the Chump?
Yeah, I thought before we jumped into Q&A, Sheila just wrote a neat note on here saying that her client was Deborah Ibarra that ended up winning our ESP contest.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Awesome.
Yeah. So I just thought I'd throw out to the travel agent community that one of the things that we did this summer was have anyone who knew an essential service provider in their life submit their story and their name. And we randomly picked one to get to go on a Yellowstone trip next summer. And we picked this woman named Deborah, and she gets to bring 3 of her friends. She's not a mom yet or anything, so she doesn't have any kids, but she's bringing 3 of her adult friends on our Yellowstone adult trip next September. So we're really excited to host her. That's awesome.
If you knew Deborah's story, we could not have picked a better candidate. She was awesome. She has given more during this time of COVID than imaginable, and even before COVID. So pretty excited to have her join us. And she's excited. We know she's excited.
Cool. And yes, we do have a bunch of questions. So I guess we'll go ahead and dive in. Kristen is asking, do you offer homes in Canada, like for a private homestay, maybe in like the Banff and Lake Louise area?
We just started researching that because we've been asked, and a little bit different here in the States. We actually have some partners here, and we haven't kind of clicked on that one yet. but it's definitely something we can work with. They don't seem to be as common as they are here in the States. We've looked for custom trips in and around Banff, Lake Louise area. Not as abundant as the ski resorts here, but it is definitely something we're working on. Our team up there is looking, and we're just going to continue. So if you have a interest, push us. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, this is going a little bit deep on that subject, but Canada has a much different rule structure than we do down here in the States. We have Airbnb and things like that where we can book into properties in these areas, whereas up in Banff, they actually reserve a certain number of homes for employees or people who work in these small towns like Canmore and Banff and things like that, just so they have a place to live. We're having issues down here in the States where we're renting cabins out as Airbnb properties, and the people that live in those communities don't have a place to live. So I actually think they're doing it right up there in Banff. It does make it a little bit tougher for a homestay, but there are cabins available. You just have to know where to look. Cool. So the next question is, do you have images that we can use in our social media?
Absolutely. Just shoot me a note and I'll introduce you to our marketing guys, Mike and Brent, both on this call. And we've got an online, you can actually find it. It's not easy, but you can go down to our toolbar on our website and go way down to the bottom, about us, and kind of follow all the links, and you'll find a whole library. But if you just shoot us a note, we'll send you a link to the library.
Nice. Cool. So the next question, Jenny is asking, do you have electric bikes for those who aren't as active?
Great question. We absolutely have a whole fleet of electric bikes in Europe because the bike rides are a little longer there. I'm just going to be honest with you. Domestically, the typical bike ride is like 20, 25 miles, half day, not a full day of bike riding day in and day out. So they're not nearly as requested. We have rented them or picked them up for special, maybe grandpa wasn't quite up to it or whatever. We have done it, we can do it. But again, I almost try and talk people out of it. It's just really not that necessary domestically.
Yeah, cool. All right. And then Deborah's asking, are the wildland trips available this summer?
Yes, absolutely. We're just integrating the website. We've got about half of them moved over right now. The web guys are working around the clock trying to move them over. We got really fortunate, and if he's on this call, it probably cost me to mention him, but got really fortunate, hired an amazing guy, Curtis Fox, our VP of International Operations. He knows this arena better than anybody I've ever met. And he's out there working with our partners and the vendors, making sure that not only are they up to wildland standards, but now they've got double standards. They have to get up to our standards. And so we've got a complete branding book. We've got, requirements and all this stuff. So he is, again, another one working around the clock, trying to get all those safari operators, the locals, up to speed on all things Austin Adventures.
Nice. All right. And then Beth is asking, what is the best time to visit Yellowstone?
Oh, gosh, that's a matter of preference. Depends on what you're looking for. Me personally, I like September. I like after the crowds have gone. I like when the elk are bugling and the fall colors are starting to come in play. A lot of people like the spring when the newborn calves and the animals are having their young. Again, really, there isn't a bad time. We actually like going in the winter. Everybody's like, what? Yeah, it is cold and there is a ton of snow, but it is actually a special place in the winter as well. So there really isn't a bad time. Again, I like September. I like September anywhere on the planet, but September in Yellowstone is special.
Agreed. I love it there too at that time of year. All right. And Rosie is asking, what year did Austin Adventure start?
That is a tough question. Why? Because over the years, we've acquired companies, and we acquired, for example, Eurobike Tours, and Eurobike Tours started in 1974. And we kind of hated to lose that legacy. But officially, Austin Adventure started in 1985. And that was, so we're in that 35-year-old, but again, we acquired Eurobike Tours and still have some of those same employees from that acquisition. And again, so really our legacy goes back much further than that. But we always like to say we've been around 35, 36 years, 1985.
Perfect. All right. And
Makes me feel old. Thank you. You just kind of really dated me. So
I wasn't born yet. Oh. All right. And Ginger is asking, can we produce itineraries to put on our website and to send to clients? I thought I remembered seeing it on the website.
So we're really, another one of Casey's many projects, we're really working at going digital and paperless. And as part of that, we've got a new enhanced reservation itinerary program. So as that rolls out, we absolutely can make it easier and easier. Right now, what we can do is we can work with you to either give you Word documents, PDFs, whatever it takes to help you. We'll just introduce you to our marketing team and see what we can kind of work together. But soon enough, we hope to where with the click of a button, we can share itineraries.
Totally. All right. And Deborah's just saying she ran into one of our tours this summer at Ranch 360, maybe 320 Ranch near Big Sky. And she's just excited to book with us eventually. So
awesome.
Thanks for joining, Deborah.
That's one of the neat things about this business. We actually have relationships with some of our partners, like the 320 Ranch at Big Sky. We've been there 28 years. And the relationship there, when we roll in every Sunday, Monday nights we're there on our Montana and then on our Yellowstone trip. They know us. We get the best rooms. We get they greet us. They take care of our guests. So that's a big part of this business is those relationships. Part of it we really dig.
Awesome. All right, and then Peter is asking, I'm focusing on photographer groups and birding groups. Are you equipped for that type of focus trip, like with photographers and birders leading those types of trips?
Absolutely. We just did one up in Glacier about a month ago, and we had a guest photographer that we actually had to pull a few strings to get him. He's pretty sought after, and he's pretty full of himself. My son Andy is actually a Nat Geo photographer, and amazing. And we pulled him out of guiding retirement and had him host a trip up in Glacier. But definitely we use my son again, Andy, if you want to look at some great photography, AndyAustinPhoto.com. Shameless plug for the kid. But he's kind of our go-to guy to help us with the itineraries or stepping on or stepping in. Something we want to explore more of. Again, getting Andy is tough because he's extremely busy, but we do and we will.
Awesome. All right, we some more here. Kim is asking if we have any thoughts of expanding to the New England area.
Absolutely. In fact, Casey will tell you that pre-COVID, my motorhome was loaded up. My motorcycle was on a trailer on the back of my motorhome, and my wife Carol and I were headed to the East Coast for the summer. To work on developing new trips. Obviously, COVID hit, literally came down to a call. I'll never forget Sunday. It was like, I can't go. What was it, like March 10th or something? I said, I can't go. So we put that off. But absolutely, we used to run trips in Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. So we will be bringing them back. And I'm not sure how much of it's going to happen in 2021. Again, we're just a little bit busy, but definitely opening up that East Coast presence. We now have employees in Vermont, which we're pretty excited about. And so we're slowly but surely opening up and expanding that footprint. And we still do a lot of custom trips. We have a lot of guests that will ask us, hey, can you do a custom multi-gen, trip to New England, to Maine or Vermont? And absolutely. We have the itineraries. We have the guides. You bet. Just give us a call.
Nice. Tim is asking the best time of year to do the Austria Prague trip, like maybe the fall and I guess I can attest to this one because I've been on that trip.
Gosh, I was hoping you were going to say that because I was.
And my group went in July, but really that season it kind of matches our seasons here in the States. So I would say really anywhere between June and October for the most part. Austria is really mountainous. So I guess into October, you're maybe going to start hitting potential bad weather, but let's say June through September really is probably the best time.
Cool.
All right. And then Linda is asking, who would be a good person to call with more specific questions on our team?
So we try and break it up by discipline. I mean, obviously, Carol's probably the best because she's probably been on 90% of our trips. We try and have her on our customs and on our, more exotic trips. Kelly knows our national parks, but again, we're a pretty small company. We try and, depends on what trip you're looking at. Again, Casey might be an expert on Alaska, or there is nobody better than Yellowstone. So it really depends on the trip. And we kind of work as a team. So if you send us an email or give us a call and your questions are in depth, they'll put you in touch with the right person on the team that really is the expert.
Perfect. And Dan and I are also more than willing to jump on the phone and answer any questions you might have too. We're always available. So no problems there. Julie is asking, do you do snowmobile trips in Yellowstone?
Yes, we do. We do as part of a trip. So the snowmobiles in the Yellowstone has been a real challenge over the years. They limit the number of tours into the park. They're typically half-day tours, maybe, I don't know, Casey, that was an all-day tour we went on. So as part of our winter Yellowstone program, we'll do it. But again, with COVID, they've limited or eliminated a lot of that. So it's always worth a call to figure out what the current conditions are. There are some other opportunities in and around the park that we definitely do. So it really depends on what your guest is looking for. We do have a scheduled Yellowstone winter program, but again, with COVID and a lot of the park properties not opening up, it's going to be a challenge this year.
That last picture, by the way, Deborah, of the kayaking, that's Jackson Lake in Grand Teton National Park. That's Mount Moran back there, that beautiful mountain. And oh, that's one of my favorite activities on any of our trips. It's so fun. And yeah, definitely beginner. You can see there's a bunch of kids in there. Good stuff. Oh, this is just a comment. There's a couple of comments on places we should maybe think about running some trips here. Camilla just bought a home in Tucson. She's thinking that's a good area to consider running a trip. They've got the saguaros, the horseback riding, hiking, good biking space, the good scenery. So we will definitely take that into consideration.
Probably 20 years ago, we used to have a Tucson trip.
Yeah, we had a Tucson biking trip at one point. That was before my time. Wait, is this the Ken Lyons? I see Kenneth Lyons on here. Any thoughts of Isle Royale National Park?
Only if that's the Ken Lyons and he's going to come back and run it.
I know, right? That's what I was thinking. I'm like,
if this is the Ken Lyons, he's one of our favorite guests. He's done a couple of cameos as a guide for us. 25 trips, something like that, and we keep working on him to come back as a guide.
He has guided for us a couple times, once in Glacier with Andy. All right, let's see. I think we're getting close. Let me just make sure there's not. Mike is asking, how do you get a digital catalog?
Simple. It's a link. If you go on pretty much any page on the website, the home page, just follow the links and click on it, and you can just download it. And if you have any trouble, just shoot me an email and we can get right to you.
Perfect. Okay, and then Deborah is asking, for someone who's never been out west, what would be the best trip that you would recommend?
As I mentioned, I think it's Yellowstone. I just really think it's special. It's one of those, there's just so much going on, and it's different every time you go. We actually have guests that go to Yellowstone 4 or 5, 6 times because it's that special. So definitely I would say it's Yellowstone.
Nice. And Denise, this one might require a little bit more follow-up conversation with Carol or Kelly maybe, but she was just saying, can you talk a little bit about the Austin collection and a bit on the cowboy ranch adventures? And have you thought about Texas adventure experiences?
Absolutely. We actually have one relationship down in Texas, just outside of Austin. We've been trying to get down there. With a name like Austin Adventures, we absolutely have to get to Austin soon. The Austin collection is a group of about 8 high-end, super high-end properties, all inclusive like Paws Up, Sheldon Chalet, some of these just absolutely phenomenal properties. And we vet them. I have the horrible job, Carol and I have the horrible job of getting to each one and expecting them for as long as they'll let us stay. So there's some really neat properties and neat opportunities within those properties. And then this year we added dude ranches. We partnered with a company to profile 15 different dude ranches. We're pretty knee deep in exploring and visiting every one of those. A lot of them were closed this summer. And so we couldn't get out to them, but that's another one that we're working on. Kelly's probably our expert, Kelly or Carol, but Kelly's probably our expert on the dude ranches. And again, a lot of them are in our backyard here in Montana, a couple down in Arizona, Idaho. So we're working on it.
Amazing. All right, lots of thank yous coming in, which must mean we're getting toward the end. Hang in there. We've got a couple of backpacks to give away to a couple of random listeners here. This is a great question. Rosie is asking, what does Austin Adventures do when a wild animal like a bear is threatening the group, an individual or a guide? And also during hikes and bikes, is there a guide in front and back of the group?
So if there's a wild animal, threatening the group, the only thing you have to remember is you just don't want to be the slowest person. You don't have to outrun the animal. You just have to outrun the slowest person in the group. I'm kidding. That's a joke. That's exactly what you don't want to do. Casey's probably more of an expert on this than I am, but literally our guides are expert in safe wildlife protocol. It is keeping your distance. It's really, don't even get close to put in that position. I mean, again, we've been in Yellowstone. We see crazy things every time we're in the park. And, there are safe distances to view wildlife. We have spotting scopes, binoculars. We make sure you're at that safe distance and we put you in the right spot. If it does happen, Casey's had a pretty few close encounters with bison, and it is just give the bison the trail, right? Back off, back up slowly, back away, and it's fine. And then on the bike tours, for the most part, we try and have a sweep rider and a bike cyclist in front, depending on the group size and what ride it is. Oftentimes the van will actually be the sweep rider. In other words, so that if anybody has mechanicals or just gets tired, the van is always there. No matter where you're at on the ride, the van is always there.
Awesome. Okay. Oh, hold on. One more question. John is asking, what is the minimum age on your family trips?
We like to say it's 7. On some trips, it's 6. On one trip, it's 5. Costa Rica's 5. But on customs or exclusives, there is no age limit. It could be anything. And then on our scheduled family departures, it's 6 or 7. Why I say it's 6 or 7, because if the child's a well-traveled 6-year-old, then you know what, that's fine.
Okay. And then Ryan is asking, on the South Dakota bike tour, is it like a bring your own bike, or is it mountain bike, road bike oriented? What's the trail like? I can help answer that one if you'd like, since I've done that.
You're always welcome to bring your own bike. We use hybrids, which is a cross between a road bike and a mountain bike. But if you're an avid cyclist, the thought of riding somebody else's bike is probably not going to turn you on. So you're welcome to bring your own. And even and occasionally, if we have a really avid road cyclist and they want the latest greatest, we'll actually work with them to rent an even more kind of high profile bike.
Yeah, and the trail is a crushed limestone, so it's not really. If it was like really dry, maybe you could use your road bike, but if there's any kind of rain, you want to have a fatter tire bike, either a hybrid or mountain bike style. So cool. All right. I think we are getting to the end of all the questions here. So should we pick a couple of winners? I have my random name generator here.
Please, Casey, go ahead.
Okay, cool.
You can announce.
The first one is going to be Deborah Keene is our first name.
Congratulations. Deborah, would you shoot me an email, dan@austinadventures.com, with your address?
Amazing. Cool. Thanks, Deborah, for joining us. And then the next one is going to be Jennifer Smith.
Jennifer, same thing. Congratulations. It's awesome. I love these packs. We'll get those out to you, but shoot me an email, dan@austinadventures.com with your address and we'll get it out.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I think, let me just make sure there's no other last burning questions here. And a lot of thanks coming in. Thank you guys for all staying on board and for giving us a chance. If you are maybe going to book with us for the first time, we're really excited to win over your business. Dan, why don't you, I don't see any more questions here other than just all these different thank yous coming through. So how about your closing comments?
You know, guys, just thank you. We're in this together. Remember those words that Bert shared with us about optimism and how important it is. And, you know, all I can say is just encourage you to give us a call, drop us an email. You need anything at all, we're here to help. We want to earn that business and let's get people traveling. Thanks very much. And we'll be sending this recording out to everybody that joined. And again, just thank you and reach out anytime.
Thanks, guys.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.